Hello everyone and welcome to week 5. Congratulations, we finally made it to the final week, another 3 credits and a final paper. I want to start off this video with scams, and that is one of the things I have learned even more pronounced in this course are the scams, the many environmental scams, overpopulation scams, humanity scams, just scams in general. Humanity is a for-profit race. I've said that before and I'll say it again. They are a for-profit race. We all are. There are humanitarians out there who would like to do the right thing, and there are the rare person who will rescue a turtle who is turned over on its back. But then there are people who are being misled by the general masses who are for profit. They want profit. Even global warming can be seen as a for-profit industry because people who are producing these innovative technologies to circumvent global warming are profiting off of the need for their technology. Windmill designers, combustion turbines, water turbines, all of these people are profiting greatly, and governments are spending millions of dollars in development of this technology, and it's for profit. So of course they're going to push these agendas. The same with contraceptives. They're going to push contraceptives in countries that they believe need these contraceptives because the research shows, such as countries like Africa, where the turnover rate is high for infant mortality, but it is a low lifespan expectancy. So they want to put in birth control to stabilize the balances. They want to bring them into a first world country, which I agree with. But the pharmaceuticals and the companies who are going to be taking this money, because it's not being created for free, there are companies that are going to create this, are being paid by the government, which is extension of the people who are paying for it, and they're paying for it because they believe it's a good cause. And even these governments might believe it's a good cause, but you have to look at the underlying people, the pharmaceutical companies, who are the people behind the veil, who are, essentially profiting off of other people's problems. And one of those is skincare. People want to look good, so they purchase products. There's scams everywhere you look, and this course has brought to light many of them. I see many biases, and even when you're talking about overpopulation, my final paper is going to be on overpopulation and its relation to what's preventing counteractive measures going forward, such as different religions, their beliefs. They don't believe, a lot of religions do not believe in contraceptives. But the other aspect is the overpopulation necessary? How are we here? How have we become to this point? And not all of that can be captured in the final article, but I would like people to think, how did we become here? How did we get here? How did we allow ourselves to be here? And some people say, well, we've made bad choices. Well, how were we exactly able to make these bad choices? People say that, God gives you choice. If you believe in God, then He gave you the choice to choose, and we've led down this path of potential overpopulation. If you believe in evolution, then we have somehow evolved into the possibility of having choice. Or not the possibility, but we have evolved into choice. But some things, especially in my first discussion post, In with Nature, I went out and I sat down into nature, and just sitting there and realizing it, something just doesn't seem right. Humans don't exist in nature, and I don't believe they ever have. I am majority Native American. On my mother's side, her skin is really, really dark, and I think she's Seminole Indian, and then on my father's side, they're half Cherokee Indian. And so, following the roots back, the people from Native America America, the natives, they didn't even live in with nature, even though it's purported that they did. They still had they had huts, teepees. They were able to make tools. No other animal or species or anything like that had tools that could assist them in living better. And I attribute that to not really living with nature. Yes, they were in nature. They didn't have the conveniences we have now. That's true. There wasn't air conditioning. There wasn't automobiles. They rode horses. They walked. They scooped water out of a stream that potentially wasn't polluted from a sewage treatment plant that's upstream from it. But were they really living in nature? That's the question. You ask a lot of Native Americans their heritage and where they came from. A lot of them say they came from under the ground. I can't prove anything. Nobody can currently. I'm not saying that that can't be proved, disproved, but in my belief of living with the nature, you have to have instincts, your bare hands, you're in nature. And I don't know at what point they might have history on it. I'm just not educated on it as to the point that Native Americans were without. I mean, the caveman age, he had a club, he had hands. You look at apes that are in the wilderness now, and they pick up things and they throw them. They can coordinate to a degree, but they're living in nature. They have instincts. And that's one of the ways that humans can actually manipulate, control other animals, is we can read off of their instincts and be able to manipulate them. I've never been bitten by a dog. I've trained many birds. I've had birds come back to me. I've had love birds that people say, well, once that bird's gotten out, it'll never come back. And I've trained it from an infant, and I can control it when it's outside to come back, stop it from biting you. It's all in the instinct of the bird. And that's why it is, some people, they're empaths, which is not recognized by science, can claim to connect with people and determine their feelings and such. And there's a lot of faith in that, being able to predict the mentality of somebody just by speaking with them. Like President Trump says he knows in 5 minutes if a deal's going to go through just by his gut feeling, and it's treated him well. I'm not saying that we don't have that type of subliminal instinct, but it's not as predictable as a horse and water, or animals finding their way to a stream. A lot of people, and I'm pretty sure there's science to prove it, that animals actually walk above underground streams, similar to people who can dowse for lakes and streams, that the little paths that the animals travel are actually above streams, so they can feel their way to water. They say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But in many cases, they've shown that animals can actually smell water. Humans cannot. You might be able to smell the dew or something after a rain, but have you ever just walked out into the middle of a wilderness and said, point me in the direction of a lake? If you're not dowsing, and you don't believe in dowsing, walk out into a field and say, where is the water? You won't be able to determine it. So how did we survive all of these years only to be disconnected from everything? To me, it doesn't make any sense. So I have to ask, what can we do to look forward? With overpopulation, you can look at the source, who benefits from it. The first person that benefits from the overpopulation isn't you or me, it's the pharmaceutical companies. They're producing the contraceptives. They are not producing, they might purport sexual education, but sex education is just on how to use and when to use the contraceptives. Because if you're not using a contraceptive, still having sex is going to produce offspring, and that is the ultimate goal you're trying to prevent. And so they're still going to require you to buy the contraceptives. Even if those people aren't paying for the contraceptives, the pharmacy is not handing it over for free. Governments are paying for it. People are paying for it. Organizations are paying for it. So you have to look at that aspect, and then you have to look at the relation to the statistics. the scholarly articles that you're reviewing. Are they funded by these pharmaceutical companies? Because even if it's scholarly and it's funded by a pharmaceutical company, it might be jaded. And I've questioned many times the academic integrity of many public officials who have high credentials who are working in these pharmaceutical companies, because a lot of pharmaceuticals people, they'll come up missing, or not to be full conspiracy theorist, but there is a lot to look at. One of the things I'm looking into is where these resources are coming from, and it's very difficult in some cases to track it back. You might track it to a person, because it is a scholarly article, it has an author, it has a person. Then you need to take that person and try to connect him or her to a pharmaceutical company of some type of interest. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from a research university? Because a research university, like, trying to think of one in Florida, I think it was, the Gators, they created Gatorade, in essence a pharmacy. So, you know, you have to be very careful of where that information is coming from. Even coming from a university, you have to question its motives. Its motives are to make profit, 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 profit. Humans are for profit. And wherever there's profit, there is a truth, and there is a spinnable truth to that. And if anything, that is what I have learned the most out of this course, is that there are truths, there are mainstream truths, there are non-mainstream truths, and then there are people who come up missing, who come up with alternative measures. I'm a person for not prevention, but completion. I don't like to prevent an illness, I like to completely remove it. I don't like to treat an illness, I like to cure it. And this course has taught me somewhat of how to be able to deeper investigate, and even deeper investigating, Instructor Blizzard has showed me where I've completely missed a step or two, especially finding those numbers that he provided on a different discussion. He provided some insight on, I'm still going through the different statistics on, but they were all compiled together, and from what could tell as a scholarly source, I could only find them in pieces in different places. So I'm by far an expert, but it takes, I guess, another set of eyes to continually look at it. I'm not sure how the Ashford University Library works, but I'm wondering the potential that from where I'm located, I'm in Florida, if the populated results are different in different areas of the state, different governments. I mean, if you're overseas, you might be prevented or screened from seeing certain aspects. One reason I switch between Google being Mama search engine is because different websites, different search engines prevent or block to push an agenda. They actually are pushing an agenda. There are a few websites, a few health websites Google has blocked, and you cannot get them even if you type in the URL name, which I do not agree with, but it is their right, it is their site, it is their agenda. So with that, I part you all farewell. Just follow the money. That's the biggest thing I've learned out of here, is follow where that research money is coming from.